Welcome to Within Our Borders on KYNR Topanus. Hey everybody, Ryan Craig here.
Hi, it's Mike Sikakweptiwa here as well.
Today's program, welcoming home Vietnam veterans.
That's right. There's a big event just happened this last Friday, March 30th, for the Vietnam War veterans. And I hope we have a good show for you here today. And I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with all the veterans in the years past, but traditionally there's a big deal for the welcoming home of the veterans, and it's happened on as early as World War I, and I think we have some things to listen to, Ryan.
Milestones of the century. On December 23rd, 1918, past the Statue of Liberty, sailed the first ships of the returning doughboys, fulfilling the battle cry, "Heaven, Hell, or Hoboken by Christmas." Vessels of all types steamed out to greet the transports whose decks and riggings were black with waving men. They swung into the harbor that went wild in the proud, jubilant welcome. Eager doughboys stepped onto a soil that more than 126,000 of their comrades would never set foot on again, for they lay behind in the gutted fields of Europe. But for those come home, there were bands and parading nurses. There was Blackjack Pershing himself. He led them over, and he led them back. In Washington, troops in orderly array swept down Pennsylvania Avenue. Through a Victory Arch, horse-drawn caissons went rolling along in final triumph before the motor trucks stole their glory away. The parade was reviewed by President Wilson, whose 14 points had done much to bring the peace.
Major General James Gavin, 38-year-old West Pointer and youngest division commander in the U.S. Army, stands by with his men in the rendezvous area, waiting for his division's last H hour in World War II. This is the jump-off. This is Operation Homecoming, the last official mission of the all-American 82nd Airborne Division. Their objective, the 4.5-mile parade route through New York City, the largest big-time victory parade since Pershing AEF down 5th Avenue in 1919. Reinforced with veterans from 3 other airborne infantry units, the 13,000 crack glider and paratroops of the 82nd swing to the proud cadence of the foot soldier. Their first salute they throw to their comrades who must stand on the curb, whose red blood and purple heart pulse to a parade they cannot march in.
Within Our Borders here on Yakima Nation Radio. We're talking today about welcoming home Vietnam veterans on our program. And Mike, what is it we're hearing now, and why did you choose to start the show off with this?
Well, the first bits that you heard was a victory parade for World War I, and there was another victory parade for World War II. This is an airport of folks welcoming home Gulf War veterans. And what does it sound like to you? It sounds like a pretty good time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They're coming off the planes, hugging their loved ones, and everybody's wearing red, white, and blue something, waving little American flags in the airports. This one's an interesting one.
It's PFC Bird here. I'm home from Afghanistan on R&R. My mom has no idea that I'm home. She thinks I'm on mission in Afghanistan still, so we're gonna go in and surprise her real quick.
All right.
These are pretty popular.
Here we go. Everybody ready?
I think they use them for ads now. But what it is
she's
a
gonna
soldier
freak out.
is surprising.
So gonna freak out.
With their arrival back in the United States.
It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be freaking awesome. All right. Here we go, girl. You ready? You gonna freak out too? Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man.
We were getting ready to sit up.
It's going to be pop culture. It's really a warm event when a veteran comes home.
Told you I was on mission.
Got mom and that's it. Yeah, that's pretty intense stuff. Pretty heartwarming Hallmark moments. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah.
I think there's a really great photograph, and I forget. I'm a photographer myself, but I think he's a sailor, right? A sailor in the streets of New York City, and he's got his girl bent over doing one of these, and he's kissing her in the streets, and then there's streamers in the air. That sounds like quite a grand welcoming back, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
But it wasn't always that way. At least there was one critical part in American history that didn't happen quite as such, and that was the Vietnam War veterans. It was a very, very controversial time in United States history, to where there were many folks across the board opposed to the war in Vietnam. They had an unpopular president, an unpopular war. Things got pretty hairy, and I have another track that describes that a little bit. Triggered. Yeah.
Anti-war demonstrators protest U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War in mass marches, rallies, and demonstrations. Central Park is the starting point for the parade to the UN building. The estimated 125,000 Manhattan marchers include students, housewives, beatnik poets, doctors, businessmen, teachers, priests, and nuns. Makeup and costumes were bizarre. Before the parade, mass draft card burning was urged. Demonstrators claimed 200 cards were burned, but no accurate count could be determined. Reporters and onlookers were jostled away on purpose. Although mostly peaceful, shouted confrontations were frequent and fiery during the course of the march. The anti-war marchers were picketed by anti-war marchers who were hawkish toward the parading doves. Civil rights leader Martin Luther King leads the procession to the United Nations, where he urges UN pressure to force the U.S. to stop bombing North Vietnam. Police arrested 5 persons as disorderly. 3 were grabbed when they rushed the parade float. No serious injuries, however, in New York's biggest anti-war march. A companion peace demonstration brings out 50,000 marchers in downtown San Francisco. They parade 2 miles along Market Street, pacifists and hippies together. Gigantic Kezar Stadium holds the mass rally, where anti-war songs and speeches trigger a short scuffle between pro and con factions. No one was injured. Both demonstrations were sponsored by a loose coalition of left-wing, pacifist, and moderate anti-war groups. President Johnson, meanwhile, let it be known that the FBI is closely watching all anti-war activity. In Rome, a peace demonstration ironically erupts into violence near the U.S. Embassy along the glamorous Via Veneto. Police, alerted to possible trouble, stopped the marchers just short of their goal, and then the march turned into a riot. Peace placards, cafe chairs, and fists flew in all directions. The next phase, a sit-down protest, but Rome police and firemen, too, had a solution. The solution, H2O, applied freely and under high pressure by the Rome Fire Brigade. The strong water jets bowled over demonstrators one after another. They dried out in the pokey. It took police 1 hour to break up the mob. 33 rioters were arrested. Internal drama in the eternal city.
Where'd you find the audio for this?
Oh, I just did a lot of research to, a lot of old news reports. And then some from the internet, the ones that we heard way earlier in the program. Those are personal videos that people shared about their, military homecomings.
Okay. Today we're talking about welcoming home Vietnam veterans, and there was a signing of a bill, March 30th. State House Bill 1319 establishes March 30th of every year as Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day in Washington State. And Mike, you actually went with the Yakima Warriors for this trip to Olympia, right?
That is true. It wouldn't have been without the advocacy of our Yakima Nation Warriors Association. It wouldn't have happened without them.
And I actually, in doing some research for today's show, found an article by Richard Walker of Indian Country Today, and it's a really good article. I can share some of it with you. Many of them were 18 or 19 when they enlisted or were drafted. They were trained to fight in a far-off land, to stop communism from spreading into Southeast Asia. Meanwhile, all that is ugly about war, in this case, the Vietnam War, was broadcast into American living rooms for the first time. As the human and financial costs of the war grew, opinions collided, sometimes violently, in the U.S. Capitol, on college campuses, and on city streets. And that kind of relates to the audio that we just heard. It goes on to say, when U.S. military personnel came home, many with injuries and memories that would still haunt them decades later, there was no welcome. They were not treated like heroes as those who returned from Korea and World War II, said Washington State Representative Norm Johnson. Instead, they were portrayed as baby killers, warmongers, and other things. That had a traumatic effect on these soldiers that is still painful to these days, as many of them refuse to talk about their experiences. Now, 38 years after the fall of Saigon and the end of the war, Washington State's Vietnam War veterans will finally be welcomed home.
Yeah, it was quite an event.
It says that March 30th would not be a public holiday, but rather a day of public remembrance. However, all public buildings and schools would be required to fly the Prisoners of War Missing in Action flag. That flag is also flown on Armed Forces Day, Memorial Day, Flag Day, Independence Day, National Korean War Veterans Armistice Day, National POW MIA Recognition Day, and Veterans Day. The observance was proposed to Johnson by Gil Kalak of the Yakima Warriors Association, a native veterans organization with about 190 members, who make sure that veterans are not forgotten. Kalak, an Army veteran who served in Vietnam from 1969 to 1970, spoke for the bill February 6th and March 14th. His compelling testimony moved the Washington legislators to act quickly and affirmatively on this bill. At the March 14th hearing before the Senate Committee on Governmental Operations, Kalak said Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day would help veterans, quote, put away our guilt, the shame, the grief, and despair, unquote, and heal from the animosity veterans faced when they returned home.
And I gotta say, it was really neat to see, having been there myself this past Friday for the event. It got to be quite a thing, personally, within our borders here in the Yakima Reservation. I heard a little bit about what was going on a day or two before, and I thought to myself, I guess that sounds like pretty good news. I'm not sure how that would affect me in my everyday life, and I'm not sure how that would affect everybody else in their everyday life. But then, towards coming down to the wire, we get a call, I work at the Yakima Nation Library, we get a call at the library from Mr. Gil Kalak himself. And he'd mentioned that he'd really like somebody from our area to document the event. So a buddy of mine, Mr. Joe French, if he's listening, and we both are part of the affiliate with the library, to up some media equipment to document the event. Joe was operating sound, so the sounds you'll be hearing in a few minutes, they are, I guess, master copies, you could say, of the entire event, and I took the video of it. And the thing that stood out to me the most, being at the event for this veteran celebration, is the unity of it. And I don't think it could have happened without the Yakama Nation Warrior Society for this reason alone. These gentlemen, these veterans, they're not doing this kind of work, and they're not asking for this kind of recognition for themselves as Yakama Nation members. But there's this whole community within our borders here of veterans, of Vietnam War veterans and other war veterans, and they don't discriminate. They don't discriminate against just Yakama warriors or just tribal member warriors. And a lot of the times, a lot of the testimonies at this event, a lot of the non-native folks, when they interacted with the Yakama Nation Warriors Association, and they got to feel the inclusion and the recognition, because the Native American community, especially here on the Yakama Nation Reservation, they're all inclusive, all warriors, and those who have served in the armed forces.
There's more to this article from Indian Country Today by Richard Walker that we'll come back to. But Mike went on the trip, and so did Corky Ambrose of the Yakama Warriors. We asked him about the trip to Olympia. Should we hear from him right now?
Let's hear from him now.
I'm Corky Ambrose, of the sub-chief of the Yakama Warriors Association. About 30 of us got on the bus, and some drove over to Olympia to sign the bill. Watch the governor sign the bill to say, "Welcome home, Vietnam veterans," which was due for a long time. Hopefully everything will come out good, because the veterans over there, they put their lives on line for the whole country of the United States and other countries, so they could be free. The governor signed the bill about 9 o'clock on the 30th Friday. Then from there, we went to the Senate. We brought in colors up there, about 8 of us. Then after we got done with the colors and everything, we went to the Vietnam Wall. We marched in, made a complete circle, asked all Vietnam veterans that was there to join in. We marched around, and then we had speakers. Mr. Johnson from the Senate and his staff gave a lot of talk, and after they got done talking, we had a circle dance. We did one circle dance, and then we lined up and had all veterans and the Vietnam veterans follow us, and we handed out special pins that they can put on their vest. On that pin, there was the American flag, the Washington flag, MIA flag, and the Vietnam bar. And we give that to all the veterans that was there at the signing and shaking hands with what Vietnam veterans was there. It was a well put on program. We're glad to have Washington State sign that bill, and there, from what I hear now, there is 25 more states that's going to start that bill and bring it in, saying, "Welcome home, Vietnam veterans." They deserve it.
Don't touch anymore. It's like,
No regalia? Oh, yeah.
Are we on right? All right, that was just a short snippet recording of what it was like to ride the bus all the way from our lodging area to the Capitol Mall, which is in Olympia, Washington.
And what was the mood like on the way to the bill signing?
The mood, it was really almost like camp. But I'm not an enlisted serviceman, and neither was my partner Joe. But they were really in good spirit the entire time. We woke up about I guess you could say 0600. They said be ready by 0600 as their media correspondents, and then Joe and I are like, all right, we have to be ready for this kind of stuff. And we got down to the lobby, and we were about to catch the Yakima Nation Warrior Association bus. They have their own bus, so it was pretty legit. It looked like a tour bus, and then they do quite a bit of travel as well. And everybody was laughing and having a good time telling old stories, and we'll have a few of those on file at the Yakima Nation Library of some of the war veterans' stories of some of their travels and things like that. And I heard a funny joke. They were teasing me. The servicemen, they were saying, I thought I was done getting on buses, If I had the opportunity again, I wouldn't get on the bus. They were telling me, because you're not going home now, they told us. How are you getting home? They asked me, and I said, I don't know. They said, well, you shouldn't have got on the bus. I wish somebody would have told me that. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And they told us a good bit of stories about their service years and a lot of the things that they did. And it got to be a real realization that unfortunately a lot of these servicemen that served around the Vietnam War era weren't recognized. And then I got to say, to my personal knowledge and reflection, we talk about movies like Forrest Gump or other movies that have something to do with the Vietnam War and how much of an ugly war it was, and how much of the servicemen, when they came back, they were robbed of their respect given the whole situation.
Well, you mentioned earlier the article by Richard Walker of Indian Country Today with Gil Kalak. Gil Kalak told of one veteran who returned home from Vietnam and was discharged in Oakland, California. He was upon while wearing his uniform. Upset, he went into a bar where he was spit upon again. Linda McNeely, who joined Kalak at the hearing, told the committee a similar story of how her husband was upon at the airport when he returned home from the war. Just to imagine the worst thing you could do to somebody. You could yell, you could scream, you could insult somebody, but to spit on somebody.
That is really, really terrible.
Is the worst.
Yeah.
The quote says, "The scars will always be there forever," Kalak said. "I know we can't change the past, but we can help our Vietnam War veterans by opening the door and saying, 'Welcome home.'"
And it's really come full circle. I mean, these gentlemen have been waiting for something like this. Like you mentioned, for 38 years. I mean, they may not have been as intense of getting spit on in the streets every day ever since then, but there's always been some degree of a lack of welcome.
I asked Corky that. I asked why in Washington did it take this many years for this bill to go and be signed?
Let's take a listen to that, yeah.
Washington State and everything, it took a while before we could do anything. Oregon already had the same bill, and I think there was 5 states that had that bill passed, and there'll be 5 more states, hopefully. And the people, we have protesters that went on and did. I think that's what part of the holdup was. The protesters didn't think we should have been at that war. They named them, called them everything under the sun, and that's not right. It gives them the freedom of speech, but so that's how come it took so long for us to get that bill signed. But Gil Clark got started on it, and the Warriors went right behind him and we pushed it. And I'm glad we got it done now.
And what Corky is mentioning there, and if you listen, he said that there was 5 states that have this bill or a similar bill to it, which is true. And let's think about that. 5 states confirmed out of 50. 5 states confirmed out of 50. That's about 10% Is that 10%? I'm not sure.
It is.
10% of the United States that are willing to openly acknowledge and welcome home Vietnam War veterans.
Okay, more from the article. It says, Gil Kalak served in the U.S. Army's 25th Infantry, 165th Signal Company from 1969 to 1970. He served 15 months in Vietnam. He received the Bronze Star, the 5th highest combat decoration, but won't speak about the circumstances that led to his receiving the medal. 2 years ago was the first time I ever talked about getting the Bronze Star, he said. I still haven't taken it out of the case. After returning home from Vietnam, he coped with alcohol and drug dependence. His first marriage ended in divorce. He said he almost lost his second marriage and his children as well. He's now been sober for 28 years, which he credits to his native religion, Washa, and traditional foods. Had Vietnam War veterans been welcomed home at the start, closure and healing could have taken place earlier, he said. A classmate told me he just started getting treated for PTSD 2 years ago, Kalak said. The trauma is ingrained in you. You hide it, but it sneaks up on you. It comes out.
Yeah, and it's really a terrible thing that happened in the past. The circumstances that surround that for all our Vietnam War veterans in our areas here.
So once you guys get to the Capitol Mall, you're there, you're getting off the bus. If you have a couple minutes, just, Mike, take us through what you guys did. You got off the bus, and then what happened? Was it straight to see the bill being signed? Was there different things happening?
Yeah, it was pretty chaotic. It was almost like everything you'd seen in any kind of large gathering at the Capitol. And then if anybody who hasn't been to the Capitol in Olympia, it is a lot like a mini Washington, D.C. There's Greek-style columns everywhere that look similar to the White House or the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. And there's all kinds of people walking around in suits and politicians openly rushing through the halls. And then when we get there, we have the Yakima Nation Warriors Association, a few in full regalia and a few in their dress attire. And it was pretty sharp seeing them walking through the chambers. And I have some audio recordings of the actual event that we'll hear after the break.
All right, you're listening to Within Our Borders. If you have any input, we do have a website. WithinOurBorders.net is the website.
Correct.
If you would like to log on, you can log on after today. Give us about a day or two. Today's program will be up on the website WithinOurBorders.net, so you can go back, and maybe you missed the beginning. You can also tune in to other programs we've aired throughout the past month. Today is week number 5 on the website WithinOurBorders.net. Also, if you would like to get a hold of me through my Yakima.com email right now, you can do that. Ryan Craig, all one word, at Yakima.com. And the Facebook option is still there too, right?
It's still there. It's in a work in progress, but it's there. Do you like us on Facebook?
You're listening to Within Our Borders on Yakima Nation Radio. We will take a break. It's time for a Toodle Note, today being read by Michelle Gutierrez, who's a 3rd grade student at Hera Elementary. Toodle Time is brought to you by the Mount Adams School District.
Hi, I am Miguel Slockish, a 4th grade student in Hera Elementary. At our school, we write Toodle Notes. Toodle Notes are for thanking others. We give toodles to our friends, family, and teachers. Here's one of my friends reading a Toodle Note.
Hi, my name is Michelle. This note is for Virginia. Thank you for being my friend and for playing with me. Michelle.
Toodles are part of showing packs at our school. Packs means showing respect for each other, solving problems, and making good decisions. Check out the Mount Adams School District webpage to print off the Toodle Note so you can give one to someone who has done something nice for you.
Our district website is www.masd209.org.
Now that you've heard us on the radio, try it yourself.
Yakima Nation Radio.
That's going to be on the 4th floor, but we're going to probably have to use about 3 elevators to get up there. Sam will be up there on the top, and she'll direct everybody where to go.
So what you're listening to is Gil Kalak describing how we're going to navigate through this very large Capitol building.
And was that when you guys had just got off the bus, or
we just had got off the bus, and we got our itineraries ready, and we were just about to get ready to meet with the governor. We're meeting with Norm Johnson, the one of the main advocates for the bill, and then we were heading into Norm Johnson's office, and I think I have a recording of that as well.
At 9:15, we'll go to the office of the governor, and he's going to sign the proclamation that declares March 30th as the Day of Remembrance to Vietnam. Welcome home, Vietnam veterans. At 10 o'clock, in both houses of the House and the Senate, there'll be a resolution read, and I believe some of you are going to the Senate, and some are coming to the House. And those that will be taking part in the opening ceremony, you will go in the wings, I'm sure, to the office, at least in the House. I can tell you how that works. And somebody is going to the Lieutenant Governor's office. Mike is, because he, the Lieutenant Governor presides over the Senate, so he'll give the instructions there of where he wants the folks to be. So the ones that are taking part in the...
So yeah, that is one of the main advocates, Norm Johnson, describing to the whole crew of the Yakima Warriors Association and where everyone's going to be. And because that's exactly at the same time, 2 things were going on in the Capitol building. There was the House of Representatives convening in one wing, and then the opposite wing, the Senate, was convening in the other. And the Yakima Warriors Association, they split into 2, and they brought in the colors for both of them. They brought that in, and then there's some recordings going along with that as well. So what you're listening to are actual recordings of the event, documents, if you will, of the bill signing brought to you by the Yakima Warriors. And one of the coolest things about it was, and these are historical documents now, believe it or not. The work that these veterans did, the Yakima Warriors Association, getting a bill, supporting a bill, getting it through its whole process to become a law, essentially, I guess, to recognize as a holiday for these veterans. You can now access these at the Yakima Nation Library in the near future if you want to hear these. And they're also, I think, we're in the works of getting the video footage, because there's tons of video footage to accompany these recordings. Being in chambers with the governor, and I think we can go into that next, actually. And the governor will actually read the whole bill for the public.
Yeah, let's just take a picture right now. Okay.
First he was taking a picture?
First he's taking a picture. This is...
Everybody say Norm Johnson. 1, 2, 3, Norm Johnson.
He's a funny guy. Governor Inslee.
Where's Norm?
Right here.
All right. All right. Okay. Now we're gonna do a bill signing, and then when we're done, we're gonna do another picture with some group that can't quite get in the door right now. We want to make sure we get everyone. For signing the Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Bill. And this is a great honor to sign this bill for quite a number of reasons. The most important number is the over 200,000 Washingtonians who answered the call of their country during the Vietnam War and proudly served, 1,100 of whom did not come home. And all of those veterans are people that we've had in our hearts and minds for decades. And now Washington State is officially proclaiming a day of celebration to welcome them home officially. Under this bill, we'll be proclaiming a day, and I hope it's March 30th. Am I right?
Right.
We'll be proclaiming March 30th from here on in to welcome home veterans. Now, this is not a legal holiday because we want to keep all these veterans working. including on this day of celebration. But it is a day that we hope people will take a moment to think of these men and women who served. And we all know that these are people who didn't get maybe the warmest welcome in the years that they came back. But now we want to double the warmth of welcoming them and thinking of their contribution to American democracy and freedom across the world. We want to thank them. So it's a joy, and I want to thank Prime Sponsor Norm Johnson and all of the people who worked on this bill in the legislature. I want to note that of all the cities in America, it's Washington, Toppenish, Washington, that had the largest number per capita of veterans who did not return from this particular war. Washington has something to be proud of in our contribution. So I'm signing this bill, and I'm happy to do so on behalf of these great veterans. The bill is signed. We got this done.
You heard Governor Inslee mention Toppenish. There's a quote from the article in Indian Country Today by Richard Walker. The quote says, "In the little town of Toppenish, where I grew up and served on the city council and as mayor, 13 men from that community paid the ultimate sacrifice in the Vietnam War," Representative Johnson told the state Senate committee. That's a per capita death rate 8 times than that of the nation and 12 times than that of the state. I also have a cousin who lies in the cemetery at Zilla who came home in a box from Vietnam. In a speech he gave at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall on Memorial Day 1993, Lieutenant Governor Barry R. McCaffrey said, "The average infantryman in the Vietnam War saw about 240 days of combat in 1 year. 200 more days than an infantryman in the South Pacific during World War II, thanks to the mobility of the helicopter. 1 out of every 10 Americans who served in the Vietnam War was a casualty. An estimated 304,000 were wounded, and at the time of McCaffrey's speech, 75,000 Vietnam War veterans were living with war-related disabilities."
That's right. And I do have a little bit more to share, and I know we're getting a little short on time, but I wanted to be able to share with everybody on the Yakima Nation here and within our borders all the good hard work that the Yakima Warriors Association did. So if we could progress with the recordings. What you're listening to now is the Yakima Warriors bringing in the colors for the House of Representatives. And just describing the sight of fully dressed Gil Kalak, he was in full regalia, bringing in the American flag. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God. And all these House of Representatives recognizing it. Justice for all. If we could skip over to track 9, and that's a pretty strong recording as well. This is a grand entry in the full circle that Corky had mentioned earlier in the show of the Vietnam War Memorial. So about this time, there are veterans from across the state coming together with the Yakima Warriors, bringing in the colors and setting up a presentation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alfie Alvarado, and I am the director of your Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs. Thank you for being here today to officially declare March 30, which is tomorrow, the Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day in Washington State.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to visit with you today. I was struck by many things today. As a younger person in life, I have always looked for moments that create clarity in my own mind. I'm going to share with you two of them quickly today. But I want to kind of preface this by saying one thing. When the country called, who answered? You did. And that call for some was to give some, and that call for others was to give everything. There are people amongst us today who have names etched on that wall that are a family member of them. And I want to first tell them that I'm very sorry for the tragic loss that you have in your heart. But know that this country is grateful for people's individual courage to defend liberty wherever called to serve. Thank you. Today I saw one more image that will stay in my mind, I hope, until I am gone. And it was an image of Gil this morning carrying the national banner into the House of Representatives. In his headdress, he was carrying the national flag. And it was symbolic to me in the fact that no matter who you are in this country, no matter what your background is, most likely those red, white, and blue colors mean to you the same as they do to me, which is freedom.
And as one of the final things wrapping up, all this information is being organized and it's being documented. There'll be copies available for the public soon as all the footage is edited and the sound recordings are mastered. Stay in touch with the Yakima Warriors Association if you would like to hear more, or if you'd like to have a glance at some of the footage. And I think as an exclusive, I'll go ahead and share a bit of that on our website, withinourBorders.net. Not in whole, but in part, just to get to generate some interest of all the great things that happened this year and that will be happening every year in Washington State. And before we go, do you have anything else to say? Because I think I want to go ahead and close it on a speech by Commander Vic Woods of the Yakima Warriors.
Well, we want to thank Corky Ambrose of the Yakima Warriors for being a part of our program. We really appreciate it. And all the hard work that all of the Yakima Warriors do. The Yakima Warriors Association. We actually got a chance to ask Corky about how active the Yakima Warriors Association is. So let's hear from him one more time.
The Yakima Warriors are quite active. We get calls from school during Veterans Day, and we bring colors in on their program and everything. We bring colors in to powwows, memorials, and it's a great honor for the Yakima Warriors Association to have graveside service for our fallen brothers and sisters. We travel to Wisconsin for honoring the lady veterans. We go down to Saxon, Arizona to honor Ira Hayes, World War II vet that helped raise the flag on Iwo Jima. We also traveled over into Portland for funeral services. We go and talk to high school kids. We travel everywhere. And we are a non-profit, and the only way we make any money is we make caskets and sell caskets. We're not affiliated with the tribe. We're more or less an individual group. And more people, and even the vets, see how we do the service at a funeral. And they request the Yakima Warriors Association. So we get a lot of calls from the National Guard and individual people that have the Yakima Warriors Association to do the service.
Corky, thank you for taking the time to do this interview, and thank you for all your hard work throughout the years. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, and I'm glad them guys sucked me into where I'm at as vice chairman. I'm the sub-chief of the Warriors.
Fantastic. And there was a very moving speech by the commander of the Yakima Warriors Association. I think we'll go ahead and end on that note with Commander Vic Woods.
All right, so if you have any input about today's program, be sure to log on to the website www.withinourBorders.net. And we'll be back next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Can't wait to talk to you again next Wednesday. We'll try to find out what our show topic will be this week, right?
Yeah, we'll figure that out. And if you have any comments or suggestions or just want to send us a note, there's a link on our website, withinourBorders.net, to have some influence on our show.
Thank you to Gil Kalak and the Yakima Warriors Association for all of your hard work. Thank you to Mike, as well as Joe French, for making the trip to document everything. And thank you to you in your office or at home or in your car right now, listening to Yakima Nation Radio and Within Our Borders. Have a great Wednesday, everybody.
Have a great Wednesday.
We know that we would not be here today if not for the efforts of the Yakima Warriors Association, led by Commander Vic Woods. Commander, could you please come to the podium?
Veterans, members of the House, members of the Senate, special guests, I thank you for being here today. May I say welcome. Like Moses of the Bible, we've been wandering for 40 years. Now we've finally been welcomed home. It truly is a Good Friday. My name is Victor Wood. I currently serve as head warrior for the Yakima Warriors Association. I served from 1969 to 1973 in the United States Navy. I was an aviation ordnanceman. My tour was with Fighter Squadron 161 aboard the USS Midway, 72 and 73. When this adventure first started, I would tell people about House Bill 1319. Some would say, does this mean we get a day off? Most of those people were not veterans. Some would say, man, that's great. It's about time. Most of those people were veterans. We as Vietnam veterans know what welcome home truly means. It means closure, acceptance, pride, honor, and a lessening of guilt for doing what was expected of us under the direction of our country's leaders. Welcome home. It really does have a sweet ring. We must take the time to remember what this day would have meant to the veterans that are no longer with us. I know that they would be proud today. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Representative Norm Johnson for introducing House Bill 1319, Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans, Washington State. Norm, you've been a good friend to our association and we appreciate all your hard work. I would also like to thank the following people: our Governor, the Honorable Jay Inslee, the House of Representatives, members of the Senate, Heidi Adet, Communications Director for Washington State Veterans Affairs. We truly appreciate your hard work. Dwayne Drake. Dwayne, raise your hand. Dwayne went out and raised a ton of money for some pens that we're going to hand out a little bit later to the Vietnam veterans. Pam Mayhew and Rebecca Corpus for all the logistics in getting us over here. Andy Thompson for all the Facebook notifications. Richard Walker and Kitsap News for their articles. Roy Dick from the Yakima Nation Radio for all their airtime. And all the veterans who passed the word on Facebook and by word of mouth. And I also want to iterate on Gil. Gil was our squeaky wheel. And I know there's some people who are probably going to cut the wires on their phones now that this is all over. It was very unselfish what you did for us, Gil. And we appreciate it. Without these people, this day would not have been possible. Let's give them a round of applause. In a little while, we'll be bringing out the drums. We will share traditional songs and dances. I ask you to please join us. The circle is our way of showing unity and friendship. The circle is strong, as is the bond between brothers and sisters of like experiences. Let the Creator witness our unity, our pride, and finally our acceptance. Also, let's not forget those that cannot be here with us today. Remember, we all gave some, but some gave all. It is our responsibility to carry on their legacy. We have been finally, officially welcomed home. I thank all those that helped make this day possible, and it really and truly is a Good Friday. Thank you.
Yakima Nation Radio, KYNR, Toppenish.